Okay, now, besides understanding the shape and form of this area of the foot that we have been discussing, and how this is basically flat, not arched, okay, and besides understanding how to locate, see, the reason that we want to find the true apex of the frog and the base of the frog is that for the most part it doesn't get as displaced as sometimes the rest of the foot, although I'm wondering about that too. But you have, because the frog grows from in here, like so, the central sulcus stays relatively the same. It's very hard to move that. Here, look at that. See how that frog grows in there? Grows way up into there. And so this area does not get displaced as much as the whole rest of the foot. I mean, this whole area here can come forward, but the central sulcus will stay relatively the same right here, even though it gets distorted and hard to recognize and filled up. So, besides understanding this area of the foot and the sole, we also have to understand the structure of this area right here. That it is a certain way, and just as it is here, it must conform, the capsule must conform to this area as well. So, what you're going to find is that a lot of times you go to trim your foot and it's not going to be flat. You're going to have this arch here. And so when we map the foot to find out where everything generally is, let's see. Like I said, we mark the apex of the frog, the base of the frog. We do want to find the center of the foot because we want it to be in the true center of the foot, the widest part of the foot according to where the bars end. But if we find that our widest part of the foot is ending back here, we know that the whole sole of the foot has moved forward. All right? And one way you can tell on that too is by learning to read your horn tubules, which we'll discuss more. When they start to go like this, they're shoving that. Whatever part of the wall, look, whatever part of the wall grows from here down to here and connects with the sole, that's where it stays its whole life, basically. So, if it's connected to the sole right here, right there, that's where it should stay. Now, if slowly over time that horn tubule's been being pulled back at the top and started growing forward from here, it's going to take that piece of sole that's connected right here and it's going to aim it and shove it that way as well. And this is how it moves the whole sole of the foot and shoves it forward out from underneath the actual foot here. And you're never going to have good sole because the sole you're really wanting to get is not what's directly under here, but this lip, this rib of sole that grows from here. All right, this area right here. Where is it? This little piece right here that goes like that, that's what you're really wanting to grow. And so, if the wall, which is connected right here, has gotten long and everything has run forward like so, whatever piece of sole is connected to this wall right here, see it? Okay, right there, it's going to shove it forward like so. And you want a nice thick rim of sole right here, okay? But all that's going to be stretched and moved forward. and out from underneath the foot where it grows. And so you're never going to have any thick sole surrounding the perimeter of the foot right here, which is where you want it. And these sole tubules, you have sole tubules that grow from the bottom of the foot, and they are at a certain angle. See, they're at a certain angle, like so. And as they lay over and grow forward, they get thinner. So you want this wall here. Okay, come on, clear up. This wall, you see how this wall works as a retaining wall to retain the sole exactly where the sole is supposed to be under the perimeter rim of this foot here. And when any of the wall gets displaced and growing cattywampus, well, it's connected to the sole right there. It's going to move it and change the angle which that sole rim grows down, and it's going to thin it out. All right, so it's the difference between you walking in a pair of hiking boots and having on a pair of moccasins for the horse. That's what it's like. Whenever the sole is displaced because the wall has grown forward like so and taken the whole bottom of the foot forward, the sole that should be surrounding this rim right here, the sole ridge, gets thinned out and weak. Okay. So ultimately what we're trying to do is trying to get these walls back to where they're a good angle. And so you don't want to get the cart before the horse. All right? In other words, you don't want to go taking a whole bunch out of the back of this foot, including the bars, because this whole area is soft. You don't want to weaken it, all right, before you get this toe straightened out, because this is how it works. You have long horn tubules here and more hoof wall. So more strength in the foot of the wall up here. And so maybe your wall was out like so. You're going to want to start getting that wall back so that it's growing down fully connected and very strong all in here and all around this whole part of the foot right here. Now, the wall and the horn tubules work like, well, this is my theory, and I've seen it kind of work. I've seen it work really well. In fact, like dominoes. This horn tubule here affects all this going back to it. So if you can get all this strong and connected the right way, it's going to affect these horn tubules that are laying here, and they're going to start backing up to where finally they're going to back up and pick up the back of this foot correctly and be in the right order. You see? But it starts up here. There's a saying, don't get the cart before the horse. Well, I think that I did that in some of the stuff that I taught about trimming the bars, because I didn't understand the whole process, you know. And so my advice to you now is that when you start to correct a foot, you don't want to way trim down these bars. You don't want to do anything that's going to weaken the back of this foot and allow it to be shoved forward even more than it already is. Okay? You do want to trim down some bar, but you definitely don't want to trim down any of this. You don't want to thin out any of this right here, because this area of sole holds this part of the bar in place. Now, if the bar is grown way up and laying over the sole, yeah, you can trim out some of that right there, but you don't want to weaken this or take any of this below the sole until you're sure that you got a good wall growing here all the way to here. Because otherwise you're going to be getting the cart before the horse. You know, a horse doesn't push a cart, a horse pulls a cart, right? Okay, so you don't want to put the cart or the horse in back of the cart. Okay, you want to start at the toe. That doesn't mean you don't trim anything at all back here, but you don't want to do anything that's going to weaken any of this in here. All right? Because again, why? This whole area moves. See? So you're going to start getting your walls connected first by mapping the toe and finding out where your toe is, which I told you how to do that. You find the true apex of the frog and the base of the frog. You divide that in half, and that gives you the measurement for your toe. Okay, now, standard is that on most horses, most saddle horses that have a size, say, a double aught to a 1, you're going to find that from the apex of the frog to where you ought to be creating a break over here to get your toe back is going to be about 1.5 inches. That's going to keep you relatively safe. So, as this wall comes back, what it'll do, it'll start kicking up these horn tubules here and work its way all the way back to where finally, then yeah, you can start releasing this bar a hair. In fact, it might just straighten up on its own. I don't think you're going to have to decimate the bars to get them to straighten up. And I think that maybe, I'm just going to tell you, I don't have all the answers. I do not have all the answers. But I know that if we lay a good foundation on what the true foot of the horse is, and we understand how this hoof grows, how it can get displaced, then we'll come up with the answers. So all I'm doing in this class is presenting for you kind of a foundation that you can build upon. And we can all build upon and add our knowledge to and come up with the right answers. Come up with the correct answers for the bars. Come up with the correct answers for getting this whole thing to remodel and form fit to the internal foot once again. And as I watch these videos, I'm going to see stuff and go, I don't know if I was right about this, that, or the other. Because that's what you do. You keep growing, you keep learning, you keep thinking till you come to a knowledge of the truth. All right, and you can't be afraid to let go of any ideas you've had or anything you've thought to be true, and double check and recheck and quadruple check things 1,000,000 times. Okay, that's what I do. I don't even trust myself. So, I'm just giving you a basis of what I'm seeing on this internal foot, and that is subject to change as I learn more. But if it's the truth, because the truth, the hoof, you'll know it. Because you'll see the results in the foot. All right. The hoof don't lie. We may read things, we may misinterpret things. But the hoof don't lie. It's going to tell us whether what we're doing, we're seeing things right or we're not. And so what we believe about this foot, that translates over into what we practice on it when we trim it. So, anyway, okay, so in mapping the foot, what I do, because I want you to look at the shape of this area here, okay? Now, this is very hard for us to see when we're trimming, and so I've come up with a way to kind of help myself see it. Okay, now I want you to look at the shape of it. At the shape. Notice how it is longest from here to here. And then it starts getting shorter from here to here. And gradually, from here to here, the wall starts reducing in length. Do you see that? Well, the problem that we've had is that we're not seeing that when we're looking at this here. We're not reducing the wall from here, well, let's see, from about here to here, which is called the pillar area. I need a better pen so you can see better. So from here to here, we have not been reducing the wall to be the same shape as the shape of the wall from here to here. Are you kind of understanding what I'm saying? Do you see how the wall goes down there and up there, and this part here is shorter than this part here? Do you see that? Okay, what we have been doing, we have been leaving this area that starts to get shorter from about here to here. We've been leaving it longer down here. By the way we rocker the toe, we'll bring the toe back and then round off the corners here. In reality, we may be looking at the bottom, like so, and thinking we have a right-shaped foot, but in truth, we are developing these big, heavy, strong, long pillar areas here that are holding everything we're trying to do to the foot back. In fact, these pillar areas here can hold this whole dorsal wall forward that you're trying to get to connect down like this, because you're leaving this area longer than the toe. So, I've done a lot of measurements. How much, when does this start to recede? When does it start to get shorter here? So I could try and mimic that in my wall here and get rid of any big chunk of long hoof right here that's holding everything right here. Because see, if the toe comes back and then it affects these pillars right here, it moves them back, which in turn moves these back. It just goes like this. So if I have this big chunk of wall right here that's just dug into the ground and longer than it's supposed to be, it's holding everything up. Say, that's what the pillars do when they get too long. When you have this area of hoof that is not shaped, like this area of hoof. Do you see? So, what I do, let's see if I can kind of pile some stuff up here to kind of set this down. Yeah, well, here we go. Kind of set this down so you can kind of see what I do when I trim. Let me just kind of prop this up. Okay, stay there. All right. So, when I trim now, okay, I have a theory, and this is just my theory, all right, that the general measurement of your frog from the dimple or butt or dimple or base of the frog to the true apex of the frog is the general length of your dorsal wall from here to here, once everything is said and done. And so, but I started adding to it because I was getting a little short. So, let's say his frog is 2 and 3 inches long. Okay? Then I'm going to think that if everything was right on this hoof, his wall, dorsal wall from here to here should be, say, 3 inches long. I add 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to find the hairline right here where it gets soft at the top of the foot. And I measure down. Okay, now his is 3 3/4. So I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch to that. Although his wall is a little long, I'm still experimenting with this, but I'm just showing you what I do. I'm like debating on quarter of an inch here and a quarter of an inch there as I do this, because this is still in the theory stage. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out a way that I can mark this foot and better see to follow the shape of what's over on this side here. Okay, so measure his frog. Let's say it's 3 inches. I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch to that. Or, well, his frog was actually 2 1/4. He's a smaller footed horse. See, I mean, you can get down to the nitty-gritty detail. Is my horse's foot this size or that size? When you have horseshoes and you go from an ought to a double ought to a 1, it's like small increments that they get larger. So, let's say his foot was 2 3/4 inches. I could measure it. Let's see. What would it be? His foot is actually from the dimple to the true apex of the frog, 2 3/4 inches. All right? So I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch to that. Like with Valor, his frog is 3 inches long. I add 1/4 of an inch to that. When I do this, what I'm going to show you to the dorsal wall. Okay, so let's see. Try and get this under here. Okay, so I'm looking at his dorsal wall. I know on Valor it's 3 inches. So I measure Valor's dorsal wall at 3 inches. And you see this horse has smaller feet. His frog was 2. Now, I'm not saying this is the all-in-all absolute. This is just a theory I have, and this is something I've been doing. Okay, so this horse is 2 3/4 inches. Have I got you totally confused yet? I'll mark a line down the center of the dorsal wall. And first of all, let me tell you how you do that. You find the center of the apex of the frog. You make sure you draw a straight line down the center of the frog to the end of the toe wall. Then you want to mark it coming up here to make sure you're in the center of the wall. Do you understand? Okay, so I'm standing there. I got this foot. I know what size his frogs are. And the size don't ever change. Okay? So the smaller footed horse here, 2 3/4 inches length of the frog. So I am assuming that his dorsal wall is also 2 3/4 inches. But I will add 1/4 of an inch to that. Remember, you add 1/4 of an inch because 1/4 of an inch makes a big difference to that horse, let me tell you. So I would come down here, I would find the hairline, and from the hairline down to the bottom of the foot, I'm going to mark his at 3 inches. Remember, his frog is 2 3/4 inches, but I'm adding 1/4 inch. So I'm going to add 1/4 inch right here. So I have a 3-inch dorsal wall. Do you see that? Okay, now I'm going to come over here to where the quarter is, where the foot starts to turn around the side, right here. Not that far, right here. And I'm going to come down again, right here at the quarter, and I'm going to measure 2 3/4 inch. And I'm going to follow the hairline around over to the side here, and I'm going to keep it at 2 3/4 inch. Now, if you'll notice, I got a line in the hoof that's going like this. You see that? But now, here I've got 3 inches. Here I've got 2 3/4. And the reason I'm doing this is for my eyesight, okay, when I'm trimming the hoof. Because I'm trying to trim it so that it's shaped more like this, that the wall will follow this shape of the internal true foot, so that I'm not leaving, and I'll show you with clay what happens when you leave these pillars long and they grow forward and they're actually higher in the sole and everything else right in here than the rest of the wall, how that's going to damage your whole hoof, but prevent your whole hoof from remodeling and growing the way it's supposed to, even keep this dorsal wall pulled out. Okay, so right here is 3 inches, but it gradually gets shorter up around here to 3 3/4. Right there. Do you see that? Okay. So it should gradually, now I can follow, now there is a grid in the hoof. Not only do you have the horn tubules that run down like this, but the growth lines as well you can see in the hoof. Do you see the growth lines there? Now I notice that I am following this growth line I'm seeing here right around the edge of the hoof, right to there. Do you see that? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off wall to, let's see, where are we here? To that line there. Wait a minute. You want to make sure you mark right. Just a minute. Okay.